Hello, everyone. We're going to talk about the stock market crash and the Great Depression. The stock market crash is when the Great Depression started. And when you see the word Great Depression, it just means people were really poor. They didn't have money. There wasn't a lot of jobs. In the United States in the 1930s, it's what it was going through. It's known as the time as the Great Depression. It was actually during this time, the U.S. was one of the poorest countries in the world. These are people living in shanties because they didn't have money. They lost their homes. A lot of people could not find work. So we're going to talk about how this started, how the crash happened, and we'll go more into the Great Depression next class. So the stock market is a place where people put money and hope to invest their money. So essentially, they just hope to make money. Invest means make money. You'll learn more about an EPF, but if you have some money, you'd put it in the stock market. Maybe you put $100 in. And in 10 years, maybe it'll be worth $150. And the stock market experienced unprecedented growth in the 1920s. So in the 1920s, the U.S. was doing very well, and the stock market was just going up and up. People were making a lot of money. However, flaws in the economy and the market itself led to a collapse. And the stock market crashed on Tuesday, October 29th, 1929. And this shows you the stock market. You can see, in the 20s, it was doing very well. It was going up, making a lot of money. Then on the day of the stock market crash in 1929, it just completely crashed. It went down, and people pretty much at this point had no money. And these are the causes of the crash in 1929. Business was booming, but investments were made through buying stocks on credit. So people were taking out loans to buy stocks. They actually didn't have money, so they took a loan to buy the stocks. There was over-speculation of monetary returns on investments. People just thought they were going to keep making lots of money, so they kept putting money in the stock market. They kept thinking it would go up. And there was a large number of small investors. And there was panic selling of stocks led to the collapse of the stock market. So when the stock market crashed, everybody wanted to sell their stocks. They didn't want them anymore. They wanted to get rid of them. They wanted to get their money back. But because everybody was selling, it crashed. It went down. And there was an excessive expansion of credit. So lots of people took out loans to buy cars, to buy radios, to buy homes, refrigerators. And when the market crashed, they were not able to pay their loans. So a lot of these companies, they would give someone a refrigerator and they'd say, you have to pay me back over time. However, those companies, it wasn't good because they never got the money because people lost it. Business failures led to bankruptcies. So a lot of companies lost all their money. They weren't getting money from people because people took out loans and they couldn't afford it. And because businesses closed, millions of Americans became unemployed. And unemployed means you do not have a job. So millions of Americans lost their jobs and were no longer working. And then there was problems with banks. Bank deposits were invested in the market. So people, when you bring your money into the bank, what the bank was doing is they bought stocks with people's money. And when the market collapsed, the banks ran out of money. There was no more money in the banks. And this led to what's called a bank run. So clients panic and attempted to withdraw their money from the banks only to find that their funds were lost. And there was no new investments because people didn't want to put money in the bank. So this is a bank right here. And when this started happening, this is the line. Everybody's trying to go to the bank to take out their money. But the problem was the banks put the money in the stock market. So there was no money. People lost their money. The banks lost the money. And people, whatever money they had, it was all gone now. And the crash signaled the beginning of the Great Depression, although serious flaws in the economy existed for years. So people lost investments, which led to financial ruin, and a lot of people committed suicide during this time. They killed themselves because they were poor. Things weren't going well. They lost their houses. And there was non-regulation of banks during this time, so people lost all of their money. And non-regulation, that means there was no laws. The government didn't have laws protecting people's money in banks. And this is a photo you might see sometimes. And the squirrel, that says victim of bank failure. But the squirrel's saying, but why didn't you save some money from the future when times were good? Usually when people say save your money, it's like put it in the bank. This guy's saying I did. It didn't matter. He put his money in the bank, but he lost it because the banks lost all the money. So thousands of banks closed and ran out of money. And the Federal Reserve, which they're in charge of the banks in America, failed to stop the collapse, resulting in bank runs, which I said bank runs are when people go to take all of their money out of the bank. That's it for this. So now the United States is in a very bad economic situation. They don't have money. A lot of Americans are poor. They lost their homes. They can't afford food. So now what is the government going to do? There's something coming up called the New Deal, which we're going to talk about. And we're going to find how the U.S. government is going to try to help all these people that are not working and don't have money. All right. If you guys have any questions, let me know.